Okay, in this video our purpose is to talk a little bit about comments to our code and then also talk about escape characters in a string literal. So I've also prepared some notes here, so we're going to flip them back and forth a little bit between the notes. So let's start with the notes. And so here is the notes I have prepared about comments. So there's two types of comments. There's a single line comment, which we indicate that we are going to have a comment with a double forward slash here. And what happens is when you put a forward double slash, then everything that follows that is ignored by the compiler. So a comment is how you would just kind of document your code, maybe say what a variable is for, make a note to yourself or something like that. Something that isn't going to execute in Java. It's going to be ignored completely. So we can use that, and I'll show you how that actually works in our code here in a second, but I also want to talk about a block comment. And so if you wanted to comment a whole block of code, instead of having to put a double forward slash in front of every line, you could use this technique here, which is to put a forward slash star, and then everything after that would be treated as a comment, therefore ignored by the compiler until you end with the opposite, which is a star and then a forward slash. So let's look at our code, for example, to see what I mean by that. So here, for example, if I wanted to make a comment about needing, from our previous video, the need to change the order of operations here to make the addition work correctly, I could make a comment here, need parentheses. So that would be how I can make a comment. And so anything after that forward slash you can see turns green, it's comment. No matter what I put here will be totally ignored by the compiler. So you can do that. And so sometimes you might do that, try something out in your code. If there's an error at the end of a line or something, or you want to have some different options, you could put the forward slash anywhere in here, and I could complete my line of code here and have it run, and then come back and get rid of the forward slash later on if I was just testing some out. So that would be one way. And so as you can see, nothing changes in the execution. That's completely ignored. So that works really well, but if I had a lot of code, just a bunch of different lines, let me show you what I mean here. So we'll just copy. So if I had a bunch of lines of code, it would really be kind of tedious for me to sit here and, let's say I only want the first one to execute, to sit here and put a forward slash in front of every one of these. And so a lot of times when you're writing code, you might write a whole block of code and something doesn't work, and so you would like to comment that out and go back to working code and so forth, so you can get it back to debugging it. So what I could do here is I could put a forward slash star, and you can see as soon as I do that, well, first of all, Eclipse goes nuts because now I have some errors because I don't have any of my parentheses closed, because everything from the start of that now to the end is a comment. Everything is a comment. So you would go to where you want to end your comment, and so I could put a star forward slash, and now I've only commented out all these system.outs, and you can see the parentheses here turn back to black, so that they're now matched up, and Eclipse is now happy, and so I can actually run this, and you can see only the first one executes. So that's our commenting, and we want to make sure we document our code quite extensively. We don't want to over comment and just create comments that are unnecessary, because that makes code hard to read too. But we want to be able to comment things so that if somebody else is reading your code, they might have some idea of something that wouldn't seem obvious. So one of the things I would like you to do from here on out is create a block comment at the top of your programs. And this block comment at the top of your programs would include your name, and and possibly what the program is or the purpose of the program or something, you can make a comment, this is project number 1. So that therefore any file I open, when I go to grade this, I can actually tell right away that that's your code. So please, every class that you start, at least somewhere in the project, have a file specifically where the main method is that has your name in there, and perhaps even just maybe every class. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about, so I'll get rid of my comment here, and even here, so it's some clean code. And here we'll go back to maybe our Hello World program. So we talked about string literals, and so string literals are things in parentheses, or excuse me, in quotes. And when I use the system.out print or print line, it's what you see is what you get. Whatever I put in those quotes will print out. And so here we go, Hello World. Now here's a question. What if I actually wanted to print out Hello World in quotes? So you might be tempted to say, okay, well, what you see is what you get, so I'm going to put some quotes around this Hello World, and so, but I got a syntax error here in Eclipse, and you can see that, it gives us some, error help. But what the problem is because the first quote opens up your string literal, but then you immediately close your string literal, so this is an empty string literal. Then you got some code that it doesn't really understand what you're talking about, and then you actually have another string literal here and opening and closing it. So it doesn't know to print out this quote, it thinks that that's closing the string literal. So the question would be, how in the world would I print out quotes? Maybe you can't. Well, I mean, there might be a need for formatting that you print out quotes, and so there's a couple options. That you could consider. You can maybe consider the Unicode character and so forth and using that. But it turns out Java has created an easy way to do that. And so that goes to my second page of notes here. And it talks about escape sequences. And so this is right from AP Central. It turns out that for the AP subset, you're required to know a couple of these escape sequences, literally 3 of them. And they are the // and the / quotes and the /n. And so it turns out that when you use a / in a string literal, and this has to be inside the string literal, when you use a /, what it's indicating to the compiler is the very next character is special in some way. And so if you want to print out hello world in quotes, what you do is you put a /, not to be mixed up with a /. I had a little note on the bottom of that notes page about the difference between a / and a /. A / is leaning backwards, and a / is leaning forward. And so here, if I put a /, and then I need another / in front of those quotes. So what happens is, so this first, I noticed that Java's happy that ID, no syntax errors. But what it is the first quote opens up the string literal. Now, the second character here, the / indicates to the compiler there's something special about the next character. And in this case, what it's telling it is that this next character is not the ending of my string literal. It's actually literally the character of quotes. And then the same thing really on the back end of this, that the / indicates the next character is special, that it's really literally the character of quotes. And then this other quote, and by the way, you only get one character after this /, and so it's only the next character is unique. So then this last quote is really just closing my string literal. And you can see now when I run it, it prints out a hello world with quotes. So there are other escape characters, and like I said, there are 3 that you need to know. What if I wanted to print out now a /, because now that the / here is indicating that it's a special character, what if I wanted to print out a /? I can't just say, let's just say I wanted to print out / hello world for some reason. You can't do that. You can see there's a syntax error because the / has a unique meaning in a string literal. It's an escape character. So in order to actually print out a /, you'd have to put another one. So the first / is what's telling the compiler that the next character is unique, and then it so happens that it's actually making the next character literally be the character backslash and not the escape character. And so now you can see if I ran it out and print out the backslash hello world. Now the only other one that you're responsible for you saw was a backslash n. Now backslash n, and there's some reasons this would be helpful. What it is, and let me just print it right in the middle here and I'll show you, is it's a new line character. So backslash n is a new line character. So right in the middle of a string, you can have a carriage return, kind of like the ln does for us at the end of this line, but this is right in the middle of a string. And so there's lots of reasons to do this. When we go into doing some more graphics with windows and so forth, you'll be able to put text in that window, but you only really get one shot of entering text. But if you wanted on multiple lines, you would use the backslash n. Now there are other escape characters, and you can kind of go online and check them out. You can see in my notes here, those are the only three that you're responsible for. There's a backslash t, which is a tab that you could maybe use in your code. It would be okay to use it. And then there's this backslash u followed by some numbers here, which are actually Unicode escape characters. And I have that highlighted here just to show you a little bit what I meant by that. That literally every character that you could possibly type on the keyboard has a Unicode for that character. And so, and Java would actually read that. And so you could see, I thought this was kind of interesting that here, using all Unicode characters, I could actually type this out if I wanted, and it would be exactly the same as creating this little program in Java, which doesn't do anything but would compile. And you can see some other things is here. I could use the Unicode character for a quote, and it really is equivalent to just putting the quote there itself. So, you might find some uses for that. It's not going to be tested. And then there's also the escape character for a character literal, which we haven't really talked much about a character literal yet. We'll talk about that when we talk about types. But the difference between a string literal is enclosed in quotes, and a character literal is enclosed in single quotes or apostrophes, and so you would need that in terms of a character literal. So that's really it for this video. So we covered comments and the escape characters you need for the AP subset.